Hi everyone. Today Bella and I are going to talk about non-ejaculation and ejaculation. What's the benefit and what's our experience and what's our relationship to sperm actually. Um because this is a big thing in the tantric world, semen retention, because semen is actually your life force energy. So when you ejaculate, you lose so much of your life force energy. And what you do in tantric lovemaking is that you circulate that energy, so you keep your life force within you that you can use for expression, for creativity, and you can last longer in bed and so on and so forth. And of course there are many layers to this, and I have to say my own experience. I think, in our society, the way we look at sex, it's something mandatory in lovemaking that it should end with ejaculation. It should, and that's also what we see in porn, of course. But I remember when I was listening to this radio show about a man who practiced tantra. It was in Sweden, and he said, "Yeah, it's about." It's another way of making love because you actually save your energy and you don't necessarily ejaculate. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe men don't have to do that. And what happens when they don't? Um, and yeah, that made me discover more about about this topic. And to be honest, I've never been really into sperm, and it yeah, it's just, it hasn't been like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I just haven't been. I think you feel the same, Bella, right? Like you even did a video about this. I'm not interested in your sperm. So can you tell me more about that?
I mean, my question would almost be like, are there any women that are really interested in sperm? Like, what is it that's so amazing with it? Like, oh, it has like protein and only 60 calories, But there are many other things that have protein and 60 calories. So
Right.
I do feel, I mean, I've never watched porn, but there is something that makes me think that there is some kind of image about something that's created almost like an expectation of like, I want it from you. And that almost makes me think back to what you're saying. If there is so much life force that there, as a woman, then you want it because you want to kind of siphon, you want to suck out the life force, or what's the reason for what you want it? Or do you want it because you want to feel loved, because you feel like if that happens, you have created some kind of belief that if your partner is making love to you and comes inside of you or comes in your mouth, that's like an expression of love. I think there can be all kinds of beliefs around this. And what I feel like we're doing now is like, yeah, we're saying there are layers, so let us start to kind of peel and see what's underneath, because at least having a conversation about it, then we can feel into our own truth and not be conditioned by whatever it is that we have learned or we have seen until now.
Mm. Yeah, I think, we have this notion of sperm being like almost like a gift to the woman, like, but also confirmation that you have performed well, or you have actually satisfied your man. That is the the receipt, that you get, like, oh well, I did it, like he came, like he ejaculated. That is like, wow. um but that is not true. That is like a few seconds of pleasure, but pleasure is so much more vast than that, and it can actually last so much longer. That would be more valid and more interesting. So I think definitely porn has a role to play in here, like, and I also hear, when I talk to female friends, that they are sometimes feeling, yeah, less of a good lover if the man is not ejaculating. They get worried that they didn't satisfy him, that they didn't please him well enough because he didn't come. But also the truth is, you can actually come as a man. You can come without ejaculating. Like, that's the next level, to separate the orgasm from the ejaculation. But we need to look at this. Like, we cannot live in a world where we when women like want the sperm because it makes them feel like a good lover. We have to talk about this, and you have to talk about this as a couple. Like, how does it feel for you when you ejaculate? What would it feel if you didn't do it? And like, what is actually, how can I be a good lover for you? And we have to move away from this like pornified view of semen, I think. But
Mhm.
I also want to play the devil's advocate a little bit, because you say, yeah, I'm not interested in sperm, but on the other hand, our sacred waters like is to be worshipped, that is something very sacred. But why why isn't the man's liquids sacred in a way, or are they?
They are sacred, and that's why I want my man to be able to circulate it so that he can be in leadership. If he's either like putting that out onto me or out into my body, or even like masturbating, it's like I'm not feeling like he's taking responsibility for his power and how he can show up in the world, because his seed, he's like throwing it out. And
Yeah.
so for me, that goes back to, I believe that it's the man's responsibility. I think my experience is that when the woman says, I would, can we do this experiment? Can you not come for 21 days, for example? Can we have this challenge? The immature man would be like, well, then you can't come either in 21 days. That would be the immature man of saying, if I don't, like, thinking that orgasm, the peak orgasm, ejaculation is pleasure. And if I don't get it, you don't get it either. And so for me, the whole process of a man maturing and understanding there's something in it for him, and it's first and foremost for him that he's doing it, and then that is completely different than somebody trying to imposing it on the other person. And that's how I got out of the false belief. I was with men that it wasn't an option for them. And in the beginning, I was like trying to desiccate it and understand it. But I could even see, I could see, because their energy was so pure. So when there was, sometimes, like you were saying, Anna, sometimes you're so intense, so you're kind of inciting the man because there's so much passion. And I could then, since the energy was so pure, I could feel the frequency, like I could feel the shift in energy after that, because it was somebody who had a way of working with that energy circulation that was really benefiting him. So if you come there as a seductress and you just throw that, energy circulation off what they want to do, I could see how that was not the way to go. And instead I became interested in how circulating your seed and benefiting from your own life force, how that man could show up more for me in relationship, in leadership. Is, I feel like, yeah, that's my experience. And I want to let you talk. So there's a lot of things I could say about it, but this is kind of the bottom line. If it comes from the man knowing that it's something in it for him, and him kind of showing his woman that it's worth it, and then as a woman, we can receive that, we can follow that, because we know it's not us imposing something. It's not really good when a woman imposes something on her man, because it's like we taking control instead of kind of, just surrendering to the beauty of what it is to be together.
Yeah, I love that you say that it is sacred, and that is the reason it shouldn't be spilled unconsciously. And there's a big difference in female ejaculation, or the sacred waters, squirting, and sperm. And this is a whole other discussion that we can have another time, but it's very different. So
I mean, and it's a
yeah.
good discussion. I would just like, it's a simple example. Like, what creates life is sperm and an egg. And we women know, like once a month or every moon cycle, we know that that's a process. And then it takes a whole month to create another egg that is, ready for being fertilized. So and we know by studies, like you can study men in different ages, how much time does it take to rebuild that sperm count? I don't think there's any study that shows that if a woman's sacred waters are moved, that she needs any time of recuperation. It's rather the opposite. Like, she's going to feel free. She's going to feel alive. She's going to feel like, it's completely different. We're speaking here about the seed and the egg that creates life, and spilling that on whatever. I feel like my blood is sacred, like you're saying, the seed and the egg is sacred. And it's very different from the sacred waters that can just move and move and move, because these are the waters that are, the waters of the universe, in a way, that how we are connected to the elements.
Yeah, and it can ignite your pleasure, your frequency, everything. It actually takes you to the next level to release that water, and it can make you want to make love even more, even longer, even more passionate. So it is completely different. So I do look forward to separate video about that as well. And yeah, it's like you say, you know, usually these times we don't make love for procreation, like we make love for um pleasure and fun. And yeah, that's different. So what is the reason to spread your seeds when you're just doing it for fun, when you don't have the intent of making a baby actually? So it's also something to pay attention to and to think about. And you know, my first experience with a man who was practicing this, and I'm not sure he was practicing it from like a tantric angle, but he was onto something for sure. He was a very attractive man that I met in the United States, and he actually helped me to evolve a lot in my own sexuality, in my own pleasure, because he was focusing so much on me and my body and how I was receiving it. And he was a real giver. He was in his masculine, I would say, and he was a giver. He was still very, you know, strong and dominant, but in a good way. And he never came, like he never ejaculated. And I remember being a little bit like, yeah, aren't you gonna come, you know, like is it only me it's gonna have like multiple orgasms? He's like, no, I don't want to do it, like I'll save it. And I have to say that that experience of him practicing that gave me so much, because that was a space created for me to really drop into my feminine, to really experience new things, to try new angles, to like feel that the time stopped, because I wasn't panicking, or I wasn't like thinking about, oh my God, he has to come, or like there's an end to this lovemaking. We could go on for hours, and it was more, we were more in the state of being rather than doing. So for me, that changed a lot. And as I said, I'm not sure like he was very like aware of what he was doing even, but yeah, that was a beautiful experience, and I'm so grateful for that. And what I feel now is that I appreciate lovers who can ejaculate consciously, like make it a conscious choice. If you are going to do it, you have to be aware of like the consequences, and how it's going to make you feel, how it's going to make me feel. And it's a choice. It's not something that just happens because you cannot control it, or happens because it's a habit, or happens because it's your, you know, it's your need. But I appreciate men who are conscious about it. And I'm not totally against ejaculation. I don't think anything is like black or white, just like that. But make it a conscious choice. Um, and also be able to, I appreciate when men have tried periods of non-ejaculation semen retention, because every man I talk to who does this, they tell me about these amazing benefits, like they feel more alive, they feel more actually sexual, more creative, stronger, more testosterone in their body, can make, like I have a friend, he said he can make muscle so much like faster when he's practicing semen retention. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I would add, because you said having sex for pleasure and fun. And I would go back to the whole reason why you and I are sitting here, Anna, and that's connection. You know, for me, it's a huge thing when it comes to connection and what changes, not only in the lovemaking, but in the whole relating to that person. Because,
Mm.
you know, as we know, just on a hormonal level, when there is an ejaculation, there is a hormonal, you know, change in the male body, so that he actually needs to recuperate. And the first 20 minutes of that recuperation, it's really even like sleeping. It's really telling the body, okay, now I need to kind of go on my own, into my own cocoon, and sleep, or reset. And that is something that, as women, we know, like when that happens, when ejaculation happens, 9 cases out of 10, lovemaking stops. That's, I mean, I would say 9.9 cases,
Yeah.
it stops. And there is something there as women, and you were even referring to it before, as like kind of that panic, you know that it's going to end. So you have to, like, there is this feeling of like, you have to you have to feel this or do this or accomplish, whatever it is before it ends. And for me, when there is not only the awareness of, like you're saying, the consequences, but also the knowing that the connection between lovers can keep, can keep being there. And it's even like, I know for me, what I noticed too with my partners is that when there isn't an ejaculation, even 2 hours later, when I'm standing in line, like buying dinner or something, I feel that my lover still has this attraction to me because nothing ended. And he probably is going to want to continue lovemaking after dinner, the same as me as a woman. So there's it's like it never ends. And I think even we are speaking sometimes about attachment styles. Many of us have those different attachment styles where we don't have a secure attachment style. So every time we kind of have that connection and it breaks, and then maybe we don't feel like our partner is so interested in us and it has to build, it kind of re-traumatizes us in a way. But when we can keep a connection that's there, where we feel our partner is present over time, for me, that kind of connection is so valuable. And it's not only valuable, it's healing. And I feel like it's healing for both partners. It's not that we're just, doing it for the woman. Again, for me, the hope is that men are going to discover this on their own and bring it into their relating, into the lovemaking.
Yeah, that is so true about the disconnection. And that is like also a big purpose of having sex and being intimate, the connection part, of course. And you can really tell, like after a man ejaculates, it's like he disappears a little bit. It's like this magic cord between you is cut in a way. And other distractions can come in, like look at the time, look at the phone, planning the next step. Maybe he wants to leave, or like that is actually devastating for a woman who's in her orgasmic state and like who's feeling like yummy and nice and connected to a man. Like we want your presence there and want to be with you afterwards. And yeah, this is the big difference between men and women, actually, when it comes to orgasm and ejaculation.
Anna, I also wanted to just make a little parenthesis because, when we speak about non-ejaculation, I do feel like porn and masturbation is it's something to at least mention. Because when you are giving your seed to something that is, outside that lovemaking space, it is the same thing. You're nurturing that space and nurturing something on a screen that is completely impersonal, and also an industry that has a lot of shadows in it. So that's also something, if you have a habit of ejaculation with masturbation a lot, and that almost has become like an addiction, that is something to look at, because that's kind of step one. First and foremost, you need, it's with yourself, with your own habits, that you want to come into your true empowerment, and then you could do it with your partner. So I wouldn't recommend that you continue some kind of masturbation porn practice, and then with your woman you're trying not to ejaculate. I mean, for me, that would not have been to what Anna is saying, understand, what it's really about and what the consequences are. So that's just a little parenthesis to kind of make clear that it's not just with your partner. This is a life practice, and there is a reason for it. And it's about, it's about the respect that you have for life, for your own seed that is life creating. And that's with yourself, with your partner, and with life and in general.
Yeah, it's about honoring yourself, right? Like honoring yourself. And it's like you say, if you want to sit there like with one hand on the computer and one hand on your dick and like give your life force to some images on the screen, like that's your choice, but that's also going to reflect other parts of your life. And that is showing how much you're honoring yourself and your sexuality and your power. And yeah, how would it feel like to keep that energy and to give yourself pleasure in another way and connect deeper to your body and also to your partner, of course. But it's a good point. It's not like this is a practice you only do with your partner, and then outside of that you can just like jerk away and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's
seed.
one more thing that I feel like we would probably mention, and that is the whole thing about the circulating energy. Because You know, the worst thing I know is that when some person that I don't even feel like he's really in his body, he might say, oh, it's May now and I haven't ejaculated one single time in 2021, but I can feel that he's not really in his body. I can feel that he's not really alive in his chakras. And I'm like, okay, so you just kind of put like, you know, you kind of just put the lid on. It's like, it's not that you are in your body, you're feeling everything, that you're in pleasure. You just decided, it's a mental decision, you're not going to come. And I'm glad I'm not with you in the bedroom, you know, because so it's important here. And this is where, you know, where connection also goes into spirituality. Like, it is about understanding energy, and energy, it's everything. And it has this connection with, you know, with your body, with your heart, with what's around you, with, you know, being connected. So I would say it's not, non-ejaculation is not about putting the lid on. It's really about starting to understand energy, your own energy, and what builds your energy, what depletes your energy, what it is to do the microcosmic orbit with your partner, where you're kind of breathing in your partner. Like, there are all these tantric or Taoist exercises that are super simple that you can start to do to become aware of energy. And when you are a master of energy, you know, then, you know, that is when you become a magician, and you can become a magician in bed, and you can read your woman, and you can read the world. Like, that's really part of that leadership. It's not to put a lid on your life force, it's learning to use it in your own leadership, in how you show up in the world.
Mm. And I also feel like the more you learn about energy, the more you connected you become to your own body, the more you can actually explore sex without touch. I actually recently had uh, energy orgasms, like no, not even touch on my body, but lots of orgasms by moving the energy, you know, over my body. And when you tune into that, that's a whole other sphere, and it's super yummy and interesting to be in that space, you know, because you, when you understand this energy, when you can drop into it, you start to feel so many other aspects of lovemaking and spirituality. It's not only like, I'm touching you there, you're touching me here, we're fucking and we're coming the same way all the time. No, there's just so many more layers and so many more spots on the body and in the energy body that you can play around with. So it opens up to deeper intimacy, I would say. And also, like you say, like, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna make this commitment now, and like, I'm not gonna ejaculate for a year, and I'm just like gonna put the lid on, and this is how it's gonna be, and they're not like feeling anything like, okay, that's not the best solution either. And we would pick that up, like, we would feel that it needs to be integrated and it needs to be true. And don't be too hard on yourself. Like, this takes time. Like, many men who practice this, like, they say it can take years, you know, to really master this and to learn how to master their sexual energy. So it's not like going to happen overnight, but just like learn about it, like read up on it, learn about sexual energy.
Yeah, and it's about, your body has become used to how you're using it. The body is this amazing instrument we have. So, of course, if you are using the energy a lot in the lower chakras and your genitals, you know, it might happen that you wake up after 7 days you haven't ejaculated, and you have like a wet dream, and you're like, what's going on? And then you're like, no, I can't do this. This is like too shameful. Like, you know, knowing that your body is just obeying you. So whatever you have taught it that it's normal to do every day, to, you know, either with your partner or maybe porn, you just, in, you know, it's to have that compassion for the body. The body is here, it's here to, you know, to be an instrument, and to give yourself and your body, like, you know, some understanding and compassion as you're changing the way that the energy is used in your body. Once you're including more of your whole being, more of your heart, more of your expression, you know, more of your creativity, like Anna was saying, it's not a snap of fingers. So what Anna and I always say, like, slow down. You know, if you can slow down everything, then it's when you can start to feel. That's when you can start to discern. That's when you can start to have a different kind of connection and communication with your partner, with your lover. And that's just a really amazing first step. And then that's the thing in Tantra, whatever comes up, we can deal with it. Like, if that's happening, that you are just waking up and you're like, what's going on? You know, laugh. There's nothing, when there is care, when there is a reciprocity with a person and with your own self, there's nothing is really shameful. We are these spirits in an animal body. Like, that's a weird thing, but can you be lighthearted about it? Can you see that, you know, can you play with it? Are you ready to go out of your comfort zone and experience something different, and even take those little bumps on the road that might feel like it's not worth it outside the comfort zone? I promise you this, because life is about learning and experiencing. And when you dare to be out of the comfort zone, there is a new door, a new world on the other side.
Exactly. And that's why we preach what we preach, because there is so much more. Open one door and you will see the next door, next door, next door. And yes. Yeah, I wanted to say something about, I just want to emphasize again, like in my experience, there's such a big difference of being with someone who's like fully present, and where you take away the performance and the end goal, and you can just enjoy each other and slow down, as you say. Like when you slow down, you can have, for me it's another kind of intimacy. Whereas I can really sense sometimes when you're with a lover and you feel like something clicks in them and they just start to like rush to the orgasm or to the ejaculation, like, oh, wait, like it's like they disconnect from you and they just like race for the ejaculation like an animal almost sometimes. And then I always say stop. But we can sense that because it is a disconnection happening, because it's not about the union anymore. It's about your own physical animal need all of a sudden that's taking over. So just like maybe pay attention to that. And this is also something we have to talk about in relationships, in loverships, how it feels for each other, what happens when that clicks happens, like what happens with me as a woman, in my body, in my feminine and all that, and what happens in his world. So I believe I'm very sensitive to this, and I so appreciate when lovers are really present and slow with me. And as I said, like it's not like you can never ejaculate. Of course, that it's not like it's forbidden and it's totally bad. It's, to me, it's more about making it a conscious decision and being conscious about it, being aware.
I mean, that's it. For me, goes back to that masculine leadership. It's about, if you are in your leadership, you are going to know if if you are going to ejaculate or not, and knowing, like Anne is saying too, is that serving me and my woman? Because even if you have several lovers, in that moment, like Anna says, it's a union between you and your lover. It doesn't matter if it's just for today. It's really like the masculine leadership serves the highest, which is also serving the feminine. The masculine is here to serve the feminine, and that's what get lost in the world for the last thousands of years. So if we can at least in that relationship with our lover bring that in, the masculine, the service of the whole and the service of the feminine, that we are healing the world. It's for the betterment of humanity. And how also, like, how, if you are a true leader, how soon can you feel that you're if you are following your instinct, your animal instinct, and that clicks happen, like Anna is describing, how long does it take you to feel that she is actually tensing up, or there's something going on in her? That is again the connection. Everything is not perfect, but how present are we to understand when we are kind of swaying off that center, in that union, that connection?
Yeah, something to pay attention to. Absolutely. Mm.
That was a rich conversation. I feel like we were touching on many of these different things that we want to bring up, and each one of them could be its own conversation. But I loved, Anna, how we were kind of weaving in many of these things that make up that connection with the other, and how to honor the sacred parts of ourselves and of lovemaking.
Yes, I love this conversation. As you said, I think we can revisit many of these topics that we talked about more, dig deeper into each and every one of them, which we will. But this is sort of an introduction from our side, and we wanted to share our own experiences and how it actually changed us, and what it means to us. So yes, thank you.
You.
And we'll be back.
Yay.